Hi, I'm Maaret Pyhajarvi, and we'll be talking today on harnessing the power of learning. And this is pretty much a journey that the two of us have been on together for the last year that we want to talk on. And kind of it starts from the point of view that we work in a team. I joined this team 2 years ago. He's been around for a year. And 2 years ago, when I joined the team, and still kind of all the way to this day, it's a team mostly of seniors. I've personally been testing for 25 years. Developers that I work with have pretty much similar backgrounds in the years. And, you know, in a team that is seniors, a team that identifies as an agile team, there might be roles like I joined as an exploratory tester or a specialist in that area. I had the developers, you know, very much identifying as people who would create the application code. We would have people who specialized in end-to-end test automation. But also, pretty much all of us, since we were seniors, we would be doing whatever we needed to pitch in. And that was kind of the main framing of the team. In a team where everyone is a senior, you don't really grow new people. So also one of the things we really wanted to do is enable new people into the industry that really needs those. And that's how Yvonne gets into the picture.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Ivan, and I've been at F-Secure for about a year now, and I do testing and test automation there.
So Yvonne joins as the first, well, we call him a junior developer, because apparently, at least officially, we don't have junior quality engineers at all. Quality engineer testing roles start from a level above. So again, you know, it doesn't really matter what your title is. Everyone will be doing testing, and everyone could be doing anything else as well. So kind of starting from this aspect of Yvonne joining, we started then wondering, you know, he's 15.
16.
Okay, fine. So he's 16. I'm not 40, I'm actually 44, if we're really precise on this one. But, you know, the comparison, like, you know, he joins as a complete newbie a year ago. He hasn't been in this industry before. He actually hasn't been in any industry before. He's just had the 15 years of life. So how do we compare? How quickly can someone like Yvonne learn so that he would be better than myself, better than the other people who have been in this industry for 20 plus years? So what can I do, for example, in helping him? So that's kind of the stories that we want to tell today. Some of the experiences on, I want to make him better than me. I want him to grow. We actually all in our team want him to grow. We want to help him. We want new awesome people in this industry. What can we do? So a year of learning is kind of a story of what kind of things we've been doing together.
So once I joined F-Secure, I got paired with Maaret, and we were testing this firewall. It's just basically we had this tool. We tested like, does this block and this, like just, yeah, testing. So how we tested it is that I was the keyboard and Maaret was giving me the commands what I was doing. So
this is a particular style of pairing. It's called strong style pairing. And the idea with that is that if I have an idea, I'm not allowed to touch the keyboard. If I have an idea, I will pass the keyboard on to someone else. And on the first days when Yvonne would join, I would kind of assume maybe I had more ideas, but he could experience all of my ideas by being my hands. So that was what we were doing. Towards the end of this kind of like a pairing session, you also need to, you know, stop and think about what were we doing, because I wasn't teaching, I was just making him do stuff. I didn't tell him what we're doing, I just, you know, commanded, told that I want you to click there and let's go see that one, hey, there's a bug, let's log that, whatever was coming our way. So towards the end of it, we needed to do a bit of reflection as well.
Yeah, so basically we have this whiteboard in our team, and Maaret once told me, or just started asking me, what have you learned, what have you done? And then she just basically started running a small mind map of just me answering her questions, like, have you learned this, like, what have you learned? Just basically repeatedly asking me.
So there were a lot of things where kind of like he could name concepts, like he had seen a rule, we were creating rules on a firewall. So I would write down rule, and I had my own mind map that I never showed him before, because again, giving something this size to someone who is new, that is just drowning them in information. So I wanted him to experience the work, and I would then feed whatever bits and pieces through whatever experiences he's had. So we were modeling what we learned and gave names to things, and also I gave some ideas of what kind of new things he could do more. So kind of like when he was learning was more narrow, and I would give him more things. So he would then continue forward with testing. I think you were doing exploratory testing for some months after that.
I mean, weeks probably.
Oh, I think you're losing maybe track of time here, because it might be. I think you were pretty much doing manual testing for 3 months, so on, something.
I'm not
of that
sure.
Sort. So a year goes really fast. That's what usually happens. But things went forward.
So after some time of me doing just manual testing, Maaret told me that I should try doing TA.
Yeah, actually, it was interesting. I remember. I think it was maybe 2 first weeks when he was at the office. We went for a lunch together, and I was asking him on his interest on, like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to become when you're big? And, asking that kind of questions from someone is kind of unfair. I don't always know what I want to do. But he was saying that he wasn't particularly interested in programming. And I kind of took that as, okay, fine, I'm, manual testing, I'm going to make him do more exploration, kind of growing him into thinking like a proper tester. That's what we're going to be doing. But then I showed up next morning. I come usually to office a little later, and he was at the keyboard. What were you doing?
So basically, Maaret told me at lunch that I should try to doing some JavaScript. I went home I did JavaScript for a couple of days, then Maaret just sees me doing these courses. I did not actually like that much JavaScript, so she told me, okay, well, if you're going to do TA, and by TA I mean test automation, it's just a term that I'm so used to. And she just says, okay, well, start learning some Python. So then I just started, looking at other people's code, just learning Python then.
So I have someone who says, I'm not interested in automation or, programming in general. Coming to work next morning, I've never seen this with older people. So coming to work next morning saying, oh, I just changed my mind overnight and I don't even remember that I did. So that was kind of fascinating, and I wish we would see more of that kind of curiosity and enthusiasm in the older people as well. And he really got into this test automation with Python a lot more.
Yeah.
So we were working together with the team. So we have this team where we believe very much in pulling information. So usually this pulling information means that nobody's pushing you any ready answers, but you have to ask for things. So do you remember what kind of things you were asking?
I mean, when I was starting doing with Python, I was asking how to do this and that. But after some time when I learned it, I had to make my first pull request. I did not know how to set up Git, so I just started asking my colleagues, how can I do that? And of course they helped me. So there was a lot of these first newbie questions I was just asking, how to make a pull request. What is a pull request? How do you review code and stuff like that?
Yeah, so a lot of things came kind of you got stuck somewhere, you would ask, I don't know what to do next. And he would be basically learning as he was doing the work, ending up in adding some test automation into our systems.
Yeah. So after some time, there was a new senior that we hired. He was more advanced, or he knew more about TA than I did, and more about Python, of course, than I did. So basically, Maaret made us pair up, and we did pair up, and basically we paired up the same way as we did testing with the firewall. So now I was giving the commands, and he was being the keyboard. So I had to teach him how we used Bitbucket, because he thought, or it's he didn't know what it was. Basically, the same thing as Git. So the mission was to get him to make the first pull request.
So generally in our team nowadays, we have this idea that we want to help the new joins to make their first pull request as quickly as possible, and actually we generally don't pair so much otherwise, and this is the place where people volunteer to pair to help a new person join. And of course, Yvonne, he usually says yes to many things that is suggested. So it was kind of awesome to see how he, with about 9 months of experience by this time, he went into this as, I know how to work here. I know how to use our test automation. I know this system. And they were pairing pretty much as kind of equals in many ways, even though still Yvonne is the junior here. Yeah.
Yeah, so after some point when we got his pull request, Maaret pulled us into a room. So and then she just started asking like, what have we learned? What have you done? Just basically the same things as she did ask me before when we tested the firewall. And this was basically the result.
Yeah. So having two people in the room, it was really fascinating, first of all, to see and feel the energy of people being excited about stuff they have learned from each other. So we have a junior and like a clear senior, 15 versus 40 in the room. And both of them keep talking about the stuff that they learned from each other. So it wasn't one-sided, but it was actually very much both parties contributing to this. And I still think that the more pairing would be a very nice thing to have on the environment that we have right now.
So one day we had this big testing task, which is called child migration, and it is having an old client and updating to the new client without the user seeing anything. So my job was to make 14 environments, update the password, and update the windows.
Yeah. So this was something that, well, I consider it very business critical. It was the highest priority that we had across a couple of teams on making this functionality available so that we could replace the old existing clients with the new clients. And, I was probably again around maybe 9-10 months into the year. So I had already forgotten that Yvonne is not always been there, or that he's actually relevantly younger than any of us. So I was thinking of this one particular task where, it starts from here. You need to have some environments, that. And it ends here, that those environments are ready, fully ready to be used in testing. I didn't know what the steps were in between, because I know that I would figure them out, any day. But I didn't realize that if there are maybe about 5, maybe about 10 steps, I might end up noticing that, over the course of a couple of weeks, I might end up noticing that he was on step 3, and I would check on, when are you going to be, done? And he's like, oh, I'm done already. So over time, like over a couple of weeks, I started to get a little annoyed with feeling like the job wasn't yet done, to a point when I'm going to use the word dragged, but I don't think I dragged him into a room. And I think I was a bit upset.
Yeah, Maaret was like shouting, but not shouting.
So, shouting without raising my voice, that's a skill to have as well. Yeah, I also remember the next day, his dad is working at our office. Actually, he's here in the room today. Next day, his dad came and asked, like, oh, you had a difficult day yesterday. So it was that difficult day. So the shouting was really about giving feedback that was for the very first time in the whole time that we had worked together. I had to tell him that I wasn't completely happy with what he had done. And that when I was trying to give feedback over the period of a couple of weeks, he didn't catch that quite as well as I would have liked to. So we had to talk about the hard stuff.
So basically, there was a priority mismatch. I was doing test automation at the same time, and our scripts were failing. And I decided, okay, well, since they're failing, I should probably also try to fix them. So I was basically doing 2 tasks at once. So
the most business critical thing that we all were doing was on him, as well as test automation, which was something that definitely like all of us are always learning on. So kind of balancing those two wasn't the easiest thing.
Yeah, and basically there was also visibility to availability thingy that Maaret did not know when I was at the office or just basically when I was available. So
because he's sometimes at school also, so he's usually working about maybe 20-30 hours a week, depending on the week.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So this visibility stuff. Really over the 2 weeks started kind of like I was asking if it's ready, if it's done, when will you continue on it? And it all piled up as in like I got a bit upset with that. But the overall problem really that we ended up with is that I was giving him a task that I would give anyone in our team. And the only thing that we agreed to do differently, learning from this difficult experience, was that when given big tasks, we would still give these tasks to him, like things that he didn't know. What we just needed to do is make sure that he would actively be asking, like, hey, can we go through that? I understand, kind of intake of the task. Do I understand what I'm taking? And if I have any questions, like detailed questions, then I, of course, can go and ask them. But kind of finding out what the thing is that we're doing. So sometimes these learning things that we were doing were from the positive things, kind of like, getting to do an activity, doing that activity in a pair. Sometimes the learnings that we've had in the year were from failing and then still focusing on learning from that failure. So that's a lot of what we've been doing.
Yeah, so school versus working. I personally see that in school they force you to do a lot of stuff that you can choose at work freely. Like if you want to do a certain thing at work, you can usually do it because you were assigned to do it, or you applied for that job that basically you're just doing that. In school they can make you do testing, development, anything that the teacher basically wants you to.
So it's interesting because I actually think that at work we also make people do all kinds of things and things that they usually don't want to. So it's interesting for me to hear how he kind of compares school and being at office. But what he's basically saying is that he feels many times that the time at the office with the people who are doing the same thing is a lot more fun than being at the school trying to learn from something artificial. So it kind of led also to this idea that he was asking if he didn't have to go to school anymore.
Yeah, so in Finland we have this, teaching contract. How is it, Maaret?
I think teaching contract is a good way of saying it.
Some kind of teaching contract. So it's basically, the company can basically teach you instead of the school teaching you. So basically I asked Maaret if I could be doing that for the next year, and she kind of didn't like that idea, right?
Yeah. So I've been really introspecting on this a lot, on why did I say no. One of the reasons I feel might be the fact that, I've been through the pain of school. I've been sitting there bored, and I've, learned to deal with boredom that way. I've learned things that I wouldn't learn otherwise. So, maybe other people should, go through the pain as well. But that doesn't sound like a great idea, like the best of reasons. But I actually still think that the main reason is that you learn different things or in a different way in school. So they will introduce you to all these ideas that we maybe don't have time for. And I felt socially responsible in a way to make sure that, if he, for example, in a few years won't be with us anymore, not at F-Secure. What if he's somewhere else? What if that somewhere else requires him to have whatever the school is teaching? And that kind of future foundation is very relevant. So that kind of led me to say no, but we're also still doing most of his courses so that the teacher comes over and we just agree with the teacher if the things we are already doing would fit the goals. So he has been mostly at the office for the last year.
Yeah. So learning, I would say that everybody has their own favorite way of learning, and my personal are pairing and doing, because that's when you actually get to see the stuff, what is happening, and just experiencing it. And when you're pairing with somebody, the other pair might know better, but it's just he has probably more experience sometimes, or it could be the other way around.
Yeah, and my favorite way is really, I've always liked reading. I read a lot. I've been actually known for many years, I've been known as a testing dictionary because I read everything that I get on my hands on testing. And, that's kind of useful when you're passing on information to someone new. But also the other way that I really like is not necessarily always pairing, but I like a thing called mob programming, which is basically pairing on steroids. You have the whole group on one computer. So you get to learn from everyone's best ideas that way. So that's something that I really, really, really enjoy. So we were doing all these kind of learning activities during the year. And kind of the year of learning, where did we end up? Where is Yvonne after the year? If he compares, he has now kind of two roles. He's an exploratory tester on one side, and he's a test automation specialist on the other side. So we were thinking of making a comparison of that.
Yeah, so basically comparing me and Maaret, I would say that Maaret is more of a in-depth end-to-end testing, while I'm on the surface, Maaret.
So usually what this means is that having many years of information coming from all routes, I can combine that information that somebody has told me, and it's at my fingertips when I'm testing. Not all of that information is available to Yvonne.
Yeah, and basically also Maaret is a person that collects a lot of information from a lot of different teams and just telling us the information, or just telling everybody else. She just walks around the office, asking people, "What's up? How are you guys doing this?"
And again, nothing stops Yvonne from doing the exact same thing, but when you've been doing this long enough, you learn some way of balancing the idea of there's 34 teams that I talk to, and Yvonne basically works within our 2 teams that we interface directly with.
Yeah, and team versus product scope. Maaret is more a person that asks how are all the teams doing, and well, I'm the one that basically works in my team and just I know what our team is doing. Just I don't know as much what the other ones are doing.
Yeah. And on test automation side, there's also kind of a difference. Sometimes Yvonne feels that I don't do anything for test automation because pull requests don't have my name. So Yvonne definitely has his name all over the pull requests. He's always hands-on with that stuff. Whereas my contribution often is on going and mentioning stuff that needs to go into the pull request to people so that we make sure that that is included. Reading stuff from the pull request, and again, not writing stuff directly there, but having a discussion with the person. So kind of I work more on the strategic level of test automation, reading stuff and making sure we implement things there, whereas Yvonne is maybe more hands-on in that.
Yeah.
Right.
So differences between a senior and me. Basically, I do only TA if we look at what they do similar. So I do the TA and they also do releases. So
releases for us basically means that there's all sorts of things we could automate or actually have been automating for the last 1.5 years. It used to take us 5 days, now it takes us 2 hours. That's where we are with our automation. So it's not that he couldn't be doing releases, making the product available for real users. It's just that he hasn't in a year gotten there as well, in addition to all of the other stuff that he's been doing.
So also, seniors are, I would say, better at Python than me and just, have more experience in TA than me. So I would say that they take less time to make a script if you compare to me, since I would it depends on the script, but let's say it would take me 2 hours, it would probably take them half an hour. So there's differences in that way.
Still, I look at this as a senior who strategically looks at automation, and it always takes everyone weeks to get anything done in the automation system. So, there's some kind of, he's talking himself down a bit on this one, but there's definitely more to learn, especially when you're moving to areas you have never been on. And test automation is not one big thing. It's actually gazillion little things, different kinds of things that you need to do. So whenever he works on areas that are known, he's actually really proficient. And again, that makes me forget that he isn't a senior, just like the rest of us.
So the third thing, I'm more a person that does end-to-end, comparing them to just maybe testing a couple of times, just to see how the feature works. And I'm the person that would do, let's say, for 2 or 1 hour testing the single feature, as they would take 10 minutes.
Well, I maybe think of it more from the perspective of if you have a dual role, that you're supposed to do both exploration and the test automation stuff, you have to take time on both of those activities. And when he says hours, I think it's again this a time goes faster when you're having fun, because all of the activities that we're doing around testing are super fun.
Yeah, focus of maintenance. Basically, let's say the radiator is where all the scripts run, and just seeing if it fails or not. So let's say all the radiator is yellow. I see my scripts are yellow. I as myself, I look, okay, my scripts are yellow, let me fix my scripts. The senior would be okay, well, Yvonne's scripts are yellow, let me try to fix Yvonne's script. But I would not do fixing some other senior's script.
Yeah, usually the focus of what you do is kind of within your comfort zone more than going to areas where you have to figure out what the other people have been doing. And all of these are just opportunities for growth. It's kind of a look into what we have right now. So this whole year of learning kind of leads us into an idea of a life of learning and the reasons on why we do these kind of things. Why do we have someone more junior, growing, and basically still continuously contributing fully in the team, being a full member of the team?
Yeah, so back in Maaret's days, when she plays these text-based games that you just basically have, let's say, 5 characters, and one of them is the wizard. The wizard is, what was the word?
Weaker.
Yeah, weakest one. And basically all the 4 other characters, they're like the stronger ones. And you have the enemy team. And the stronger ones have to fight at the enemy team so the wizard could kill them at the last second and get the experience so he could level up.
See, these kind of stories I keep telling him as part of his work. This is why we do it. This is why it's important. You are a wizard. We need to keep you alive so that in 20 years you're going to be more awesome than any of us right now. Because in 20 years this industry is not going to be what it is today, and it's going to need, the magical powers of anyone who can grow in these days. So we really need to grow our wizards. We need to take care of them. So kind of like I always keep on talking about this multi-user dungeon experience where I would start over 100 times because I always got killed until I realized that I'm dependent on the team. And this is a really good metaphor to tell sometimes to the other more senior people in the team who might feel that he's dragging us down, that while he might be slowing us down today, he's making us faster overall. And that's kind of what we wanted to still summarize to. So this is really about learning. All the stuff we talk around this talk is about learning. And if you're learning so that you spend an hour every single day into learning, and that learning cumulates and makes you better every day, if you would get 1% increase with that, that means 4% faster results on a daily basis. You're actually, if you think of yourself today and yourself a month later, or him in these 12 months later, he's most definitely improving at this pace right now. So it only takes 28 days to already bring back whatever investment you had if you used an hour a day. And the funny part really is that you can use as much, we were calculating this with Luell and Falco, you can use as much as 5.5 hours of an 8-hour day into achieving that 1%, so that you're better off in a year, which is the time that he used. So him using time on learning from books or courses, it's not away from anyone. Or him using time so that we learn to include someone like him. It's not away from anyone. But we're actually all learning so that in the future, all of us get to be the better versions of ourselves.
Experts are the ones who learn the fastest.
So I think he's going to be an expert very soon. Maybe not yet after 1 year, but maybe after 2 years. And that's definitely a worthwhile goal. In the future, we're going to need people who are learning a lot more, learning new techniques, learning new technologies, learning and figuring out, innovating new ways of doing things. And for companies like the one where we work, we're going to need people who also will pay attention to the fact that maybe this is not meant for younger generations, or maybe the avatars that we use are not female. Maybe they should be both genders. These kind of things come when you have the diversity of thought in testing. And he definitely represents some of that with us. So that's the story that we wanted to share today.
So learn to learn, start small, grow fast. No one is alone, you can always ask questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can always ask questions.
Yeah, so when is your next summer school opening then?
Next summer school opening. So I was actually hoping that I would have had a new person this summer, but it turns out that I'm way too much in conferences to get anyone right now. So that kind of blocks me from having someone. And my checklist says next one should be a girl. It's not that there's anything wrong with Yvonne, but it's just I want to be making this available equally for both genders.
Nothing wrong with Yvonne, but
all genders.
Hopefully.
There's nothing wrong with Yvonne. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for your great presentation. I have one question to you, Maaret. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned when you had an idea, you gave a keyboard to Yvonne. And what did you expect? Did you expect implementation of your ideas, or what?
So, whenever you do strong style pairing, you kind of create this connection between the two people. And the expectation is that you will set the connection to whatever is needed. There's 3 levels on how I could navigate him. There's the intent. I might say, test this feature and he does all the right things and I'm going to be quiet for the next hour. That would be possible thing. The next level is location. I might be saying, oh, to get to the firewall, you need to go here. And then I will watch him do the right things. Or it might be details where I will tell him exactly what to click and what to do. So since he was at his first summer job and a complete newbie, I went more with the details and I would usually give intent and then details, intent and details. Let's test this type of thing and then details on how we would do that.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you for really great presentation. I would like to ask about the challenges which you faced while you were going to school and working.
Challenges going to
Because you are quite young. I mean, 16 is still secondary school, right?
So he's in vocational school right now. But how is it to go to school and work at the same time?
both school, I mean, okay, so, well, how should I say? It's easier when you actually get to go to the office without like they actually making you to go to school, but I had to go at some point. So how I usually did it, I usually went to the office, then I would just like about after lunch go home. School. Okay, home. No, I did not go home. But
you would get to school.
Yeah,
so
I went to
a lot
school.
of times I think he was complaining mostly on the I have to be in the bus again, like it takes me so much time.
It takes like an hour to go from the office to the school, so it's not that fun. But like I wouldn't say that there were that many obstacles in vocational school because it's like you still like because like we had, how should I say, the development part and then the part where you actually like learn the actual school stuff that's like important, they say. So, so I would say if it's regarding the important stuff, then it would be a bit harder because the important stuff, like it's, how should I say, like you need to study it. Like we had to say that like this 1 month we had the important stuff, the second month we had this engineering stuff. But if I did the engineering stuff at work, I didn't really have to stress because like about every 2 months we had a test. So I was really like, just how should I say, prepared for it.
So I think part of the reason why it's able to do this is that he has flexible working hours. We have complete freedom when you are supposed to be at the office. A lot of us work a lot remotely. So him being away and doing things from elsewhere and, finding a way of gelling with the team, he's just like the rest of us, He just does some school. Yeah. I go to conferences, like where's really the difference?
Yeah.
In a way.
It really depends on the company.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yvonne, I have a question.
Sure.
So when you go to work, you see a lot of old people.
What?
Oh, are you calling me old now?
I didn't have you in mind.
Wait, what did you describe old?
If usually the common denominator is that older people think that this upcoming generation is lazy, irresponsible. You can help. You can fill the gaps.
I'm definitely not old then.
So, what is your view on the let's say the older generations? It's like, what do we not get?
The older generation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
where are we lost in your eyes?
Where should I start?
Just pick something.
It's just like a big mirror now to us all, right?
So basically, how should I say? You guys think that your past should be like almost the same of our past, like in a way. Like let's say my dad had a moped. And I wanted a moped. He was fine. But then I wanted a motorcycle. It was like, no, you're not getting that. So, well, I got a motorcycle. Now, when I'm going to be a grown-up, I will understand, okay, that was cool to have a motorcycle. It was really fun. So I would say, like, a lot of times when you're a parent or just, older, you think, or like, how should I say, it's kind of hard, like, to give some, or like, I don't know, like,
letting people do the things.
Yeah,
that
because you guys
right
think that okay, well, I understand we are still kids, or it depends on the age. I would not give a 10-year-old a motorcycle, but like, okay, well, I should not.
My
have a motorcycle.
sister was 21 when she almost got killed in a motorcycle accident.
But like,
she started 16.
It's really hard to say. It really depends on like the child and stuff, like who is actually like the one, but like, what do you guys do not get? I'm thinking, I mean...
I understand you have a very long list in mind.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, very long list.
And it's, you know, it's not that easy to explain. It usually comes up like in an argument. Oh, you just don't understand this. So
Yeah.
it's like it really depends also on your, I mean, I would not say friends, just what you usually do at free time. So I mean, I would say it's more like you guys think that your guys' past should be like this, like your guys' childhood should be like the same childhood as we had.
So
I mean, that's what I think.
So we want to copy our childhood on your childhood.
Yeah, like you
All
guys want us to copy, let's say, your childhood.
okay.
Like
So
that's what I'm thinking, because that's what you know about your childhood.
So no motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one thing.
Okay. So I see plenty of questions.
There was also one there in the middle.
We just
earlier.
have to start somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the talk. That was awesome. My company, because I'm one of the more junior engineering team members, and I frequently asked to pair and be mentored and so on, but I sometimes get, you know, I feel it's not delivered right, or it's not, people don't really want to, or they're afraid to. And
I get that as a senior a lot.
yeah, oh,
It's
things
not about
never
age.
change. And yeah, I just wanted to hear what you had to say about that. Maybe techniques I can try in changing my communication to get people more willing to help me. Because currently, if I ask for help, quite a lot of the time somebody comes over and says, "Oh, you need to do this." I'm like, okay, I don't actually have the context to understand what you're saying, and they say it again in a different way, and I don't, and I have trouble getting them to pair with me.
What did you do that one time with one of your colleagues? You just sat there and just waited until it was
Yeah, so
done.
I sat basically next to the desk and just, you know, was around until they fixed the bugs. So that's what I do quite often. Like I have this habit of trying to avoid writing stuff in pull requests and Jira. And it's intentional because I rather invest in the relationships, and I rather invest in trying to get them to stealth pair with me and feel uncomfortable when they keep telling me no. So I find that the way I cope with that is find people like Yvonne, who doesn't know how to say no yet and enjoys it.
I don't want to say no.
And enjoys it enough not to want to say no. So it's again kind of like, you know, there's people who have learned that they are too valuable to spend time with other people, and they should maybe unlearn that. And usually it's about long-term joy. So kind of like, for example, with mobbing, it's something that gets a lot of this kind of concern out. I find that when you're having a party and somebody's outside because they didn't volunteer to join the party, you know, they will join the party next time. So make it fun. Start with the right people. Like, kind of like, you know, the open space rule, whoever comes are the right people. Whoever joins you, that's the right person for you.
Hiya. What do your friends think? Are they doing similar things as well? Or are they like, you're doing really weird stuff, it's boring?
Okay. Okay, now it really depends. I have this one friend that I usually like. We talk a lot about IT. He does also development. He is going to get a job now as well. So we are like about on the same path. But then there's like the other guys that are like, why don't you go to school? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you know, like they're thinking like, how can you actually do this? Like, how is it like? How should I say? They don't really like a lot of kids my age don't really like working like for that long, maybe like a month, but then they, you know, get exhausted, they get tired, they think that it's too repetitive.
They just don't know how much fun it is to work with us.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, they are not testing. That's the reason. Yes.
And I mean, then there's like, how should I say? The other guys that like think that I'm not gonna be anything because I don't go to school, so I'm like, please, can you just, yeah, I mean, it really depends on the people, but I would say like most of them are like, okay, well, school, you go to work, so, yeah.
Hey, that was a great talk, by the way. It's very usual when you're learning to get frustrated at yourself that you're not picking something up. Like, have you ever had a case where you've had that and how you overcame it? And how would you like to be treated when you're feeling frustration?
Okay, now this is a really special occasion to me. My dad, he works at the same company, and he does a lot of the stuff. He knows basically everything that I do. So if I don't understand something, I just ask him. So, okay, well, most times if you ask people, they usually tell you, at least in F-Secure. So I don't know how it's in the other companies, but basically asking...
It's not the same.
Usually, yeah, well, that's what I understood.
It's a cruel world out there. Yeah.
I'm scared. So yeah, I would say asking usually helped me a lot, and basically explanation. Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I have a classic job interview question to you.
Oh crap.
Yvonne. So what do you think you'll be doing in 10 years?
I mean, hopefully working.
Anything more specific?
Working what?
Okay, well, I would like personally, since I'm now interested also in development, but I mean at the same time I would like to do testing at the same time. Like how am I doing basically what I'm doing now, but maybe instead of TA actually building stuff, but then at the same time testing it manually a lot, or testing other things manually. So basically up to development somewhat.
Down to development, that's what you mean.
What?
Down to development.
No, I would say still testing. I mean,
There we start again.
I enjoy it.
So thank you both.
Thank you.